This is over here, which is final update. So after having played Ruthless for a couple of days, I'm thinking pretty much done with PoE. It's been a fun league. It's been over a month, I think, slightly over a month. And I've had a really good time because the league has been a lot more accessible and a lot more builds are available to you in this current league than in the previous two leagues. So I just want to briefly run through like the builds I've made and generally how it's been. So if you look at Sanctum, I had three different builds, which is unprecedented. Usually I make one or two, and 3.18 I made two. One of them was kind of meh, that one was pretty strong, but abused the kind of broken mechanic. No, sorry, 3.18 I had two, and one was really strong because it was champion, and the other one was kind of meh because it was a proof of concept idea. But the league after that, 3.19, uh, I did a Poison Trickster Helix that abused slow projectiles to clear everything, but it was so boring. Like 3.1, I was so boring, I'd only play one character. So 3.20, I had three different characters. I told myself at least once a league, I at least need to play a Ascendancy I've never played before, and that was the Sabo. Out of the three builds I built this league, um, Glacier Hammer was very interesting. I think it does give me a better understanding of how the skill, how a good melee league starter can be. Uh, in this case, using uh, Thessalios, using Frost Breath, using Heat Shiver. I'm not sure if Heat Shiver will stay, but if it does, then it will still remain strong as a good league starter item. But more likely than not, I think Heat Shiver will see some form of a nerf. Probably maybe less chance to freeze or something. Or like crits cannot freeze, because then it takes crit builds out of this equation and just allows and mainly just benefits non-crit builds, which I think it's kind of needed for this helm. I think it's too strong at the moment. But yeah, he should scaling with Thessalios, with Frost Breath, Pain Seekers, and Yoke is like super good for melee, for elemental melee. Um, Hopefully 3.21. There will be a focus on physical again, physical damage. There'll be a focus on melee, like true melee, not range melee bullshit. Um, some builds hopefully will get tapered down, like strength stacking. Any stacking actually will hopefully get tapered down. Uh, yeah. So that is for the Glacial Hammer. Then I moved on to building the Trap Champion. I didn't expect this character to scale. I was just curious to how much damage the Fatal Flourish Jewels really gave. And the answer is that the Fatal Flourish Jewels gave a lot of damage. Fatal Flourish is just pretty insane when it comes to traps. But then again, I don't think it'll ever be nerfed because, to be honest, when I experimented with this, the only trap skills, attack skills that work very well were Blade Trap. I tried bows and it just didn't work out. I don't think bows are that good. So it's an interesting proof of concept. I think Jung has already gone through with this, so it's not something new. The proof of concept that was interesting here was using Mahou tools and Tempered by War to create a very strong HP and defensive layers. To iterate again, the reason why Mahou tools and Tempered by War are so strong is that a lot of damage nowadays that kills you is more damage in the form of penetration, more damage in the form of monsters stripping your defenses from you. So most of the time, your defenses are really, really good, and that helps you keep you alive. A lot of classes, a lot of builds now rely on defensive mechanics such as Determined Grace, um, basically max res to be able to survive very difficult content. But at the very high end of content, mobs and bosses have certain abilities to strip your defenses from you. And the best defensive mechanic in that case is going to be a way to basically transfer, or rather have damage taken as another type of damage. And Mahu's Autos does that for cold and lightning. And then if you get enough fizz taken as elemental, you can also do that for physical. So that helps you deal with all sorts of content, all manner of content. I think the downside to Blade Trap Champion is that I discovered firsthand that when you play traps, you don't really get good sources of recovery unless you run something like a Tinker Skin. And Tinker Skin itself has its own downsides, has its own problems. So, uh, that being said, after trying the Blade Trap Champion, I then moved on to what I think was the pinnacle build for me in this particular patch. So that would be the Explosive Trap Champion, Explosive Trap Sabo. I really thought about this a lot because when I saw the Mahuzolto's mechanic, I realized that there is a very, very strong recovery mechanic here that nobody is using and it's kind of underutilized, which is Eternal Youth. Mainly because Eternal Youth and Wicked Ward works very well together. Wicked Ward doesn't actually hurt your life recharge. So it says less energy shield recharge rate. This less multiplier doesn't apply to life recharge rate. It doesn't take away from the life recharge rate. So as a result, you can still have a pretty substantial amount of life recharge. So normally if you have 40% less, you're going to basically get only 60% recharge rate. So 60% of 30 is going to be like 16%. So you only recharge like 16% of your life per second if this downside applied. But the reason why it's so strong is because this downside on Wicked Ward doesn't apply at all. And then you can then steroid recharge rate with Blightwell to like 100% of life per second. I don't know whether or not GGG will nerf this. There's a very limited use case where this is strong. That is in builds where you basically have lots of life. So this side of the tree. But the problem is that you don't really get good sources of life recharge. Starting your life recharge because Blightwell hurts that, right? So starting a life recharge is a problem even if you have a lot of life, even if you can recover like 5k, 6k life a second, it doesn't matter because the way to start it or proc it is not there for the left side of the tree. In fact, the only ascendancy and the only class essentially that can do this is Shadow because you have access to Spellbreaker Jewels. So Spellbreaker Jewels here you basically start energy recharge when you suppress spell damage, and 50% is quite a massive amount of massive chance of starting. So you can like and you can run an assassin, you can run a sabo. I chose sabo here mainly because I feel like assassin doesn't have the damage it used to have, and also I feel because traps synergize very well. Like if you think about it this way, traps have a lot of damage, loads of damage. The problem with traps is that you can not have good recovery when you have traps. So this actually mitigates the problem Sabo has, and at the same time doesn't really take away from it in terms of damage. So that's why this combination works so well. And then also for Sabo, you usually don't have a lot of maximum resistances. It's very hard to get it, right? You have to basically get an imbalance jewel. But in this case, because you're running Mahuzoltos, and if you get a Blightwell of a max res, you can basically get up to 87%, no, 80 actually, 88% all resistances, just with Purity of Fire, or 88% on Fire res, which applies to your Cold and Lightning, and then you have 86 Chaos res. So it makes this character a very tanky character. You have 44k life, you have Determination, and then Determination gets steroided uh, by you get basically get max extra EHP because of the Molten Shell on Determination, and yeah, so I would say that this build is probably the best build I've made in the past. But yeah, I mean, okay, fine. 3.18, I had a very strong champion, so that doesn't count. I think that one did 100 million DPS, and it was basically unkillable as well. So this is, in a sense, I would say not as strong, but also way cheaper. The champion's chest armor alone was 100 divines. And this whole build here is like probably 80 divines. Like literally the whole build. So at this price point, I would say that this is one of the strongest characters I've made at that particular price point. So this whole build cost me 80 divines, would probably cost someone else 100 divines to make. because I got a lot of pieces pretty cheap. But yeah, I've also had a lot of fun time. This league kind of scaling explosive trap, understanding how it works. Um, explosive trap works extremely well if you scale it to level 30. And beyond that, it's actually not worthwhile. I think some people do scale to 32, but I don't think it's worthwhile. And really, to scale to 30, you almost always need a double corrupt chest. Yeah, or you run Skin of the Lords. Alright, that makes it. Was there any remaining ideas that I had at the end of the league that I didn't get the chance to play with? The answer is yes, I had a lot. There were not really a lot, but two ideas that I think were very important. Like, oh, those worthwhile to experiment with, but I just didn't get a chance to. Oh, actually, not two ideas. I have four ideas that, maybe five ideas I had that I didn't really get a chance to play because it would take too much time, and I think it's best to just save it for next leagues. One is he's using Void Forge and Rage to scale damage. I think Rutu is doing that already, so maybe I'll just watch him rather than do it myself. A bit unfortunate though, because it's probably like I have got a lot of gear here that costs a box ton, like maybe 80 divides of a gear where I have stockpiled and I didn't actually get to play it. But that's fine because time is probably more important than vines. The other thing I was thinking of is Azuri's disfavor scaling on the quality. Um, Two alternatives I had were reduced AoE using anomalous concentrated effect. That didn't really work out. And the other was actually something that I think other content creators have tested and it works out very well. So that is using Vengeance and basically Pulverize, Anomalous Pulverize, or Phantasma, I can't remember which one it was. But basically getting a lot of damage on Vengeance, going a duelist class and getting the double damage on uh, on what was it called? What's that Vengeance thing called again? Counter attacks, yeah. So double damage on counter attacks. So I thought that you could do this with a Bone Shatter setup and use Bone Shatter to proc the Vengeance. If also because you're using Bone Shatter, you're very likely to want to run Ashes of the Stars. Ashes of the Stars also scales Vengeance, recharge, cooldown recovery. So you basically get to double dip quite a bit there in terms of damage. But I mean, when I looked at it POB wise, I think the maximum damage you can get up to is like 35 million or so. Non-pinnacle, but not pinnacle, but not Uber. And I thought that was kind of meh, so I didn't really want to invest in it. Like it costs quite a bit because Atsuri's Disfavor is not that cheap. I mean, it's kind of cheap, but not that cheap. And also because I feel like Bone Shatter is much better on the Juggernaut now than it is on a Slayer. And Juggernaut doesn't have Pain Forged, right? So that's that. Um, the other idea I had was basically a Fulcrum build. So I was thinking of self-ignite Fulcrum using Balance of Terror. So Balance of Terror you can see here. You get 40% physical as an extra random element. So as it gives you an extra element, basically more damage. You also have Unaffected by Ignite, and then that allows you to just create very big ignites that you can carry on with yourself and then just run around the map, proliferating them. You also get Winter Weave, and then you basically have self-chill mechanics. And then I was thinking you run out EK, so you just go Gloomfang or something. That idea didn't really come, yeah, that didn't, was something that I managed to pull off. Because I mean, at this point in the league, I don't really want a fast mapper. I want something that can do everything, right? So that's the other reason why I kind of held off on this, but uh, I'm not sure if this will be good at league start as well because there's too much. Like a lot of these items are hard to come by during league start, and then once you've already gotten these items, you don't really want to build a build that just zooms maps because that feels counterproductive if you want to do generally a build that can do everything. And then the last idea, which I didn't pull off, was to scale Valkyries. So Valkyries actually is pretty insane because if you get the right double corrupts on it, you can basically push a gem to like level 20, 30 immediately. and level 30 gem with 4 support, or rather 4 links, is almost like a 6 link as it is. So you basically get a 6 link ability. That's a Val skill. So if you see here, this is something I considered, which was to do Righteous Fire, I believe. So if you get a 21 Righteous Fire, it goes to 30, and then you 29, you have 30 Righteous Fire, does a lot of damage. So this is Righteous Fire with AoE and duration gems. You can also do uh, summon skeletons. So I was thinking about this. Not sure if a summoner would make sense, but you could also do Dark Pact, I think, because the skeletons you summon have like double the HP of a level 21 skeleton. So that's what I was also thinking as well. Dark Pact skellies with these gloves. I was also looking at Caustic Arrow, Val Caustic Arrow, but I think I sold that one off. So we have Projectile and Duration Gems. You could do Val Caustic Arrow, and then you can dash off on chest. You can run Toxic Rain on bow, and then Caustic Arrow on gloves. Basically, you have like 3 different abilities that do damage over time. So that was one idea. I never really got to it because I feel like a lot of builds that really require these tend to be mid-game builds. Like you league start Caustic Arrow, or you league start Poison Dot, and then you just get this as an upgrade. So if you already have a character that works well, if you're already scaling for endgame, like the Explosive Trapper, this doesn't really make sense. You won't want to create a character like that. So yeah, I think I would definitely want to make a build around Valkyries in the future. Uh, so Dark Pact was one of the things I was considering Caustic Arrow as well. Okay, one more last idea. Oh yes, this. So I think I bought a pretty nice Wilma's recruit. So I was thinking about Wilma's as well. I think Wilma's was interesting. I could never really POB and get a decent. I really couldn't POB and get a decent build out of this, but I think if I at least started with and had a bit more patience, I probably could come up with something good. So what I have on mine is right now probably EA or Toxic Rain, uh, Ballistas, and then using what's that amulet? So I have it. Okay, warp timepiece. Do I have the warp time? I think this would be a pretty good league starter. But okay, I don't have it. Warp timepiece basically gives you attack speed and cast speed, like a total of 20, 25 of each. So you can get like 50% attack speed, essentially, for your totems. And I think Onslaught, I'm not sure if Onslaught allows you to double it, but it might. So I was thinking like totems, champion, toxic rain, Wilma's Recruiter, perseverance, um, and then a warp timepiece, and then just scale damage cheaply and be very tanky. So that was the idea that I had. I think this would be an amazing league start. You can also run a champion with what's it called again? EA totems instead of this. But yeah. All right. So this would be me closing out the end of the league. Oh yeah. Let me touch upon the Ruthless character. I think the Ruthless character was just. I really want to see how Jug Bone Shadow worked in terms of defenses. It's actually very very tanky for the amount of investment. And I don't even have Unbreakable yet. But I think Jug is going to be extremely strong in the next few patches. As long as Unbreakable still exists in this form. Yeah. What else? It's cold damage. Uh, Scales very well. I like it. I think the problem is it doesn't really have. You really need Berserker's attack speed for this to work. So unfortunately, no Berserker. Dabion's Dirge is not bad as a budget league start item, but it's quite terrible. It falls off pretty hard. Still abusing each other as well. Anyway, yeah, I'm done. Peace. See you guys next league. I might play a bit of Torchlight. I don't know. We'll see. I just casually play Dota once in a while, but I think I've spent enough time gaming for the past 1 month or so. Peace. See you guys.